Hello, it's Rachel Bourke, and it's wonderful to be back. Sorry about that. There's nothing like a live show when your internet has problems to bring you unstuck. Anyway, thank you so much for being here again, Michael. It is fantastic to have you here, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that everything goes very smoothly with our internet today so that we can get through this fantastic interview. All right, I'm going to start from the top again because it was going in and out, and I'm not sure whether our viewers actually got to listen to your answers with the clarity that I know that they'll be craving. So let us begin again, and thank you so much for everybody who is still here with us for our LinkedIn Live. So Michael, my first question to you is this one. What are the key differences between self-publishing your book and traditional publishing? Let's start from scratch.
So this is a question we've actually had twice today already. So we get this question very often. So obviously it's a key consideration for authors when they've finished writing their book and they're deciding what to do next with it. So the main differences are with traditional publishing, so that's what most people are familiar with, companies like Penguin, John Wiley & Sons, that sort of thing. With traditional publishing, the publisher makes all of the decisions around the book, so the cover design, the printing, all that sort of stuff, and they also pay for the book to be produced. So that's the traditional publishing side of things. Self-publishing, obviously the author is also the publisher, which means they have to pay for the whole production of the book, but that also means you get full control of the process. So you get to design your own cover, you get to manage your own editing, you get to control the whole process, which you don't get to do with traditional publishing. So that's the main difference. The other biggest difference is the amount of time it takes, which I know we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you for that. I know I've got so many questions around this. Okay, so how do you help authors to self-publish, who want to looking to self-publish, I should say, determine the options they have and how to choose the best one for them?
Yeah, so we have a process we go through with authors who've chosen to self-publish. The first thing we do is we have a 30-minute phone call with them in which I discuss the project with them, but it's not just about the book, it's also about how they're planning to use the book after it's published, so that's very important for us to know as well. So during that call, we discuss the editing process, discuss the design, how do they want their book to look. So we go through all that with each author, and then we ask them to send us the manuscript. So we need to be able to see the actual book before we can help them make decisions. So that's kind of the two-step process we go through to help authors create a plan for their book.
Yeah, okay, really helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, so what is the book production process?
Yeah, so the key steps in the book production process are planning, editing, design, proofreading, printing, and distribution, and then obviously after the book comes out, marketing and publicity and all that kind of thing. So that's the steps in a nutshell.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so there's quite a bit we've got to get through if we're going to publish our own book. Okay, important. All right, what are the main hurdles authors face when self-publishing?
So the biggest hurdle we find is the author having concerns about getting the book out there. So it's almost a lack of self-confidence. We see this issue all the time. So it's kind of an unexpected one, but the process itself, there is a lot involved. That can be a little bit daunting, but with a company like us or any other good self-publishing company managing the process for you, those hurdles, you've got someone to guide you through them. We often have authors right at the last minute. We call it the last minute author conniptions. Yeah, exactly. No, it happens all the time, and it's totally understandable. But right as the book's getting close to going to print, they start suddenly getting nervous about the cover, or they, suddenly think, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not happy with what I wrote in chapter 7. Can I have another look at it?" So it's all about putting this thing out into the world that you've spent 6 months, sometimes 12 months, 18 months working on, and then that last minute doubt of, oh my God, is it good enough? So that's a very, very real hurdle for authors.
Yes.
We often say we should have a counselling component of our service. So
maybe you should.
Yeah, it's something that most authors need to overcome.
Oh gosh, okay, so I'm glad I'm not the only one with that one. And okay, so with those sort of hurdles, can these hurdles be overcome? And if so, how do you help with this?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the logistical hurdles and that kind of thing, that's just, we know what we're doing, so we guide authors through the process. That's actually the easy stuff to overcome. at the end of the day, the issue of the self-confidence and, you know, imposter syndrome, it's often called these days, is you've just got to deal with it. I always say to authors, you can't be shy and publish a book. You can't lack confidence and publish a book. If you're out there trying to promote your book and you're doing it half-heartedly, or you've got reservations about the book, or you're not confident in your own business and what you're doing, I can guarantee you the whole thing won't work. It's like anything you do for your business. If you're not confident with it, nobody else is going to have confidence in what you're doing either. So it's just a matter of accepting the challenge of getting yourself out there and being confident in what you're doing.
Yeah, okay. It's a scary one, though, I can imagine.
Very much.
So what should I expect from a reputable, reliable self-publishing house?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. So the key things that you should look for are, and we see this one in particular cause all sorts of trouble for authors. A self-publishing company shouldn't have an agreement with you that locks you into publishing with them. So where we see that go wrong is, and this is a particularly American thing, I think this is more common in America. Yep. But you know, Australian authors do work with American companies, so it's certainly something people need to be aware of. That what happens, and like I say, unfortunately, I probably have this conversation 4 or 5 times a year, that an author has gone halfway through the publishing process with a self-publishing company. It's all gone south. They're not happy with it. You know, they're not happy with the design, or the editing's been terrible, or the company's not responsive. And they're trying to get out of the agreement. And it turns out that there's nothing they can do to get out of it. So really, really causes problems because they've gone halfway down this process. They've spent a lot of time, they've spent a lot of money, and the whole thing's gone pear-shaped. So it's, I mean, you might say, well, that's business. You signed up to a contract. That's what you signed. But if the publishing company is not living up to their side of the bargain and not giving you adequate support, but then they're not also not letting you out of the agreement, it can cause terrible problems for authors. I think I mentioned to you the other day when we were chatting, I had an author last year who rang me up 3 days before his book came out, and the whole thing had just turned into a complete mess, and he was in a panic. He was launching in 3 days. His book wasn't on Amazon yet. He didn't have his printer's copies yet, and things can go terribly wrong. And so authors, you have to be very, very careful of the agreements you sign. So that's a very big one. Self-publishing companies, the second point is self-publishing companies shouldn't take any extra profit for the extra books that you sell. So if you're out there marketing and promoting your book, and if you're doing all of that work, you shouldn't have to make extra royalty payments to the publishing company who's helping you, or the self-publishing company. So that's definitely something to be very careful of. I always say to authors, if you sell 5 copies, 500 copies, or 500,000 copies, you don't owe us any more money. So you make the same amount per book. So that's a very important one. The self-publishing company should be willing to spend time with you to discuss your project and what your goals are for it. So I'm always wary of companies that give you a quote based just on word count. So some publishing companies will do that. As I mentioned, we have to see the manuscript and have a conversation with you before we provide a quote, because that's the only way we can properly understand your book and what your project is. Another thing is they should be happy to send you sample books that they've worked on, so you see the quality of their work. And another important point is they should come up with a plan with you and a schedule that should all be agreed in writing, and obviously they need to stick to it. So they're just I could give you another 100 more, but we don't have time.
Yes, I'm sure. No, they're very, very important. Thank you so much for sharing those. Why should authors enter their books into the Australian Business Book Awards? Now, this is something that is dear to my heart. I'm thinking if I'm going to write a book, which is going to happen for me this year, thank goodness, then why should you enter into the Australian Book Awards?
Absolutely. So the awards have been going for 4 years now, and we've had a fabulous response to them. We've gone from, I think it was like 50 entries to 70 entries to 145 or something like that. It's just gone through the roof. The benefits that the winners see are, obviously, if you win a category or if you win the awards overall, is you get to call yourself an award-winning author and with an award-winning book, which you are. If you win an award, it's also a chance to restart your publicity. So maybe your book came out 8 months ago, 10 months ago, and your publicity's kind of, trailed off a little bit. So if you win an award or you win a category, it's a great opportunity to get out there again with your book. So you start promoting that you've won this award. Yep. Yeah. And we've had a few authors have a lot of success with that last year. And another thing is, even if you don't win an award, it's just great exposure. So, we promote the awards on our website. It goes on social media. So even if you don't win, just entering itself is really good exposure for you.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I love it. Okay, then, very good. And my last question, I know we've got a few more questions that have come in over the last couple of days, and we'll get to those in a second. But my last question to you is, it's actually not my last question. I've got a few more slipped in there, I can see. What are the best ways to raise the profile of the book and increase sales?
So most of our authors, my biggest piece of advice is be active with your book. So there's no one single strategy where I say to every author, do this and you'll sell 10,000 books. If there was, I'd be making $1 million selling that strategy, but there just isn't. So the biggest single thing you have to do is be active. So that means social media. That's pretty obvious. We've had authors get fantastic speaking gigs with their book. We had an author just last week. Funnily enough, she was the Australian Business Book of the Year award winner last year. She got interviewed on David Koch's show just last week. So that's fabulous publicity for a book. So doing those sorts of things. And then again, just all the sort of obvious things you do for anything in your business. Bit of publicity, a little bit of marketing. But like I say, just be active with your book and get out there and promote it. And once you start doing that, you'll start to see what's working for you and what's not working for you. And you'll find, again, every book's different, every author's different. You'll find your niche and you'll find what's working for you.
Yeah, nice. I like that advice. Very good. Okay, so now what are the top 5 key steps for self-publishing? What do we need to do?
Yeah, so these go for not just self-publishing, but for any kind of publishing, but specifically for self-publishing. The first thing that's most important is to know your goals. So why are you publishing this book? It's kind of easy to say, oh, well, I should publish a book. It'll build my profile and all those sorts of things. But you need very specific goals to make it work. So when authors say to me, should I put my book on LinkedIn? I say, well, what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Maybe that's a good idea for you. Maybe it isn't. Obviously putting it on LinkedIn is a good idea, but putting a lot of effort into LinkedIn. So make sure you know what your goals are for your book. The second thing to do after that, once you've worked out your goals, is have a plan. So you've got your goals worked out, then you've got to have a plan for how you're going to get there. So again, like anything you do in business, if you don't have goals and if you don't have a plan, it's not going to work out. So they're the first two. The next one is start working on your marketing and sales plan before the book comes out. So this is really key. Authors sometimes think, I spend 3 or 4 months producing my book, and then when the book arrives, so I get boxes in my office and the book's arrived, then I start thinking about marketing and publicity. That's too late. That's absolutely too late. You need to be planning and working on all of that stuff while your book is being produced, so that when your books arrive, when you get delivery, I always say to authors, pop a glass of champagne, celebrate that night, and then get up the next day and be ready to go. So, so make sure you're ready when the book comes in. Don't think the planning starts when it arrives. Be ready before it comes in. The next one is something we've kind of already touched on a little bit, is don't be shy. So you're going to be an author now. You've got to get yourself out there. Part of that is becoming an extrovert. If you have to force it, you have to do it. I fully understand that. I'm a quiet guy normally. I don't like putting myself out there, marketing, publicity, that kind of thing. I'm not into it. But if you're going to do a book, you have to do that. You've just pretty much got no chance of success if you don't. So don't be shy. Even if it's not your natural personality, you've got to get out there. And the last one is don't worry about book sales. So I always say to authors, this is a hard one to understand until you've got your book in your hands and you start getting out there in the world with it. So, we've had authors recently, we've had an author who got a deal for a Spanish edition of his book that's going to be released into the South American market. And he didn't do anything to organize that. He was just selling his book online. Some guy in South America downloaded it, read it, said, this is fabulous. I could use this in my business if I had a Spanish edition. So, that's got to be worth a few $100,000 to him. That's much more important than the $3 he got from selling the book. So don't worry about book sales. Once authors, we stay in touch with our authors after their books come out. And once they get out there and start doing things with it, only then do they fully understand this. They ring me up and say, oh my God, I just get invited to speak at a conference. Or like I say, our author Tracy last week on Koshi's TV show. Does she care about selling 10 books or going on Koshi's TV show? So don't worry about book sales.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point to make. I absolutely agree. All right, then, wonderful. Now we've got some new questions coming through. How much does it cost? I know this is something on a lot of people's minds. How much does it cost to have your book published by a publishing house versus self-publishing?
Yeah, so again, a very common question. Getting published by a traditional publishing house actually doesn't cost you anything. That's one of the main advantages of going with a traditional publishing house. They pay to produce the book. So they've looked at your book, they've looked at you, and they've said, okay, if we invest our money in this project, we think we're going to make a profit. So they're putting the money in. So they pay for editing, design, printing, all that side of thing. That sort of thing. The self-publishing process can cost you to do it properly. So we describe it as we produce books to the same standards as the major publishers. So we literally use the same editors, the same designers, the same printers. So to produce a book to that standard, our average projects cost about $15,000. So obviously that's $15,000 versus $0. So people are going to say, well, why should I do that? And all the advantages of self-publishing that we're going to get to, you have full control of it. The book, it's quicker, all those sorts of advantages. That's why you'd invest that money in self-publishing your book.
Yeah, good to know. All right, thank you so much. How much time does it take to self-publish your book? You've just spent, if you're working with a great book coach and you power through it in a 90-day period, then what is the time that it takes you? What sort of time are we looking at to self-publish?
Yeah, so if you're self-publishing, and again, whether you're working with us or another similar company, the typical turnaround time is about 3 to 4 months. So that's from having a Word file of your book to about 4 months later having printed books in your hands. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Next question is how much time does it take if the book publishing house is going to do it for you?
So it's usually a little bit longer in terms of the actual book production. That might take about 6 months with a publishing house. But the biggest difference is, that's not the half of it though. The biggest difference is how long it takes for them to both pick your book up and then to slot you into their schedule. So it can easily take up to 18 months from you finishing your book to having your book in your hands with a traditional publisher.
Really?
So it can take them 2 or 3 months. And I've seen this firsthand. I used to be managing editor of John Wiley & Sons. So they've got to first accept the book, which can take them 2 or 3 months. Then you've got to fit the book into their publishing schedule. So their publishing schedule is all designed around, big marketing plans and all this kind of stuff, which for bigger companies, obviously that's a huge undertaking. If you're self-publishing, you've just got one book to worry about. You can do it all yourself. You can get it out there very quickly. So it can take, like say, from the moment you write the end in your Word file, if you start looking for publishers, then it can take you up to 18 months to have your book in your hands, which if you've written a novel or a poetry book, might not be such a big deal. But if you've written a book for your business, that's a huge opportunity cost.
That's a massive deal. That is a massive deal. I had no idea it took that long. That's great to know. Then, okay, so is it harder, based on all that, is it actually harder to self-publish? As the author, is it going to be a struggle?
Yes and no. So there's, it's going to be harder in terms of, yes, you certainly have to put more work in. As I've mentioned, with a traditional publisher, obviously they take on the design, the editing, the marketing, all that side of things. So you're not nearly as involved. You don't have to make all the, big decisions on the book. They'll do that for you. So they take a lot of the process off your hands. Obviously, along with that, though, you lose a lot of control of the book.
Yeah.
So even if you're self-publishing and working with a fabulous company like us, it's still a very involved process. So it's not like you give us the book and we come back 3 months later and say it's done. It's self-publishing. You're your own publisher. So you have to be involved in the cover process, the editing. You have to decide how many copies you want to print, all that kind of stuff. So it is certainly more involved. And if you don't do it well, it will certainly be harder. But if you get the right help, it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Okay then. All right, great. So you say don't worry about book sales.
Yes.
So how am I going to make my money back? I know we've already asked you this, a similar style question. So is there anything else you'd like to add to that, to this answer around making your money back?
Yeah, so the book can be used in all sorts of ways as a fabulous publicity tool. It can be used for content. So, we have authors who repurpose their whole book and turn it into a blog, which is great. You can't do that if you go with a traditional publisher because you'll be breaching your contract with them, most likely. You can use it for, you can turn it into YouTube clips. You can use the content for all sorts of things. We've got plenty of authors who turn their book into a course. So that's another fabulous way to make money. But again, my favorite example right now, because this literally just happened a few weeks ago, is the author who got picked up for his Spanish edition. That's, I mean, what bigger opportunity could you have just from someone randomly downloading your book off Amazon and saying, this is fantastic, I need this in Spanish.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Okay, great. What sort of return on investment should I expect to make if I write a book and self-publish it?
Yeah, so excellent question. The key to this, before I answer any of this, is if you do it well. So if you do it well, I've never, ever, ever spoken to an author who 6 months after their book came out said, oh, what a waste of money, I wish I hadn't done that. Never once had an author say that to me, not once. So, but again, that's if you do it well. If you get it's like a website. People think, oh, if I start a website, that's all I have to do. No, you start the website and then you promote the website. The book's the same. Publish the book and then you've got to use it well. So we have authors regularly, like the minimum standard our authors could expect would be doubling their investment. Like if we had an author who used their book well and didn't double their investment, I'd be massively surprised. So, you can easily get, I mean, what's the value of an appearance on the David Koch show? I mean, that's $50,000 worth of publicity right there. You can get, sign up one new client for $10,000 you've nearly paid for your book. So minimum would be, again, if you do it well, would be doubling your investment. The upside is potentially absolutely massive, like we've talked about. So yeah, it's very, very safe investment if you do it well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and I really like, as you said, the minimum is doubling, and I do believe that as well. I think if that you should look at that as absolutely the bare minimum if you've got all your strategy in place and you're taking action, as you said before. I really love this question. Who does self-publishing not work for?
Yeah, this is
it's not for everybody, I'm sure. So who won't it work for, Michael?
So I mean, somewhat predictably, the answer is the inverse of everything we've talked about. So people who don't have a very clear plan of what you're going to do with your book. So like, say, some people write a book just like, oh, I hear it's a good idea to write a book for my business. Everybody's writing books these days. I'll write a book for my business. And they don't have a clear plan of why they're doing it or how it fits into their business plan and their overall processes. So it definitely doesn't work for you if you haven't got a clear plan. And I have seen this happen, not with the authors we work with, because we go through this stuff with them. But the way authors often say it, if they've gotten this wrong, is they say, like a year after their book comes out, and they say, I realize now I wrote the wrong book.
Oh.
So so it's which is quite an upsetting thing to say. Like I say, it doesn't happen with our authors because we help them nut through all that stuff. But that's, in a year's time, are you going to think that you wrote the right book? It's very, very important. The other people self-publishing doesn't work for, as opposed to traditional publishing, is people who don't have the time or the effort to put into it. So, like I say, it is much more time consuming than going with a traditional publisher. There's upsides and downsides of everything, and that's one of the downsides of self-publishing. It is a lot more work than traditional publishing. So something
Okay, got it. Definitely. You've got to really want to succeed and do the work to make that happen. Shifting gears slightly to the Business Book Awards now. Is it time consuming to enter? This is a question that's definitely on the tip of my tongue. Is it time consuming to enter the Australian Business Book Awards?
No, not at all. So it'd probably take you a maximum of 2 hours, if that. So there's a form on the website that you have to fill out. It's not like, so we talked briefly about the Telstra Awards before. We've been through that process as well. That takes days and weeks to enter those awards.
It does.
It's nothing like that. There's a form on our website, on the Business Book Awards website, that you just have to put in a little bit of info that most authors can do off the top of their head. So a little bit of information about your book, a bit of information about who helped you produce it. So it might take you, if you wanted to fill that out really carefully, it might take you an hour. Then you hit send, and you also have to send some books in. So it's been about 6 books in the past. I'm not sure what it'll be this year. We're changing a few things. But basically filling out a form on a website and sending him some books is what it takes.
Okay, that sounds relatively easy. So what's the cost to enter the Australian Business Book Awards?
Yes, so I will just preface this by saying that the Book Awards are a not-for-profit. So we've donated over $20,000 to the Australian Indigenous Literacy Foundation in the last few years. So we absolutely don't make a profit from this. So the entry fees do not go in our pockets. It's just so we can run the awards, because obviously there's administrative costs and all that kind of thing. So to enter, there's different categories that you can enter your book in. To enter into one category is $99. And then to enter subsequent categories is $49 each. So most authors enter 2 or 3, so roughly $200. And you are, with that, making a very sizable, contributing to a very sizable donation to the Literacy Foundation as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing, and very, very affordable, very much so. So how do I determine the category to enter my book into, and can I enter into more than one category?
Yeah, so you can enter into 2 categories. I'm not going to say that categorically right now, because we are looking at maybe changing it this year. But in the past, it's been 2 categories, which I'm pretty sure will be the same this year. But I'm just qualifying that a little bit. And then to choose which category you enter into, for most authors, it's really easy. So the categories are sort of, technology, health and fitness, business management, leadership, that kind of thing. So you'll see very easily where your book fits in. And all of the details are on the website of each category. So just grab your book, have a sit down, go through the website and see where you fit. Like I say, for most people, it'll be very, very easy. If you really don't know where you fit, there are a couple, occasionally there's books that don't really fit any category. There is what we've called a general business category. So that's basically everybody else. So if you don't fit any of the categories, just put your book into general business and you'll be absolutely fine. So all the info is on the website.
Okay, all right, really helpful. So next question, what do you look for? What do you look for? This is what we want to know when judging the Australian Business Book Awards.
Yeah, this is an excellent question. We get this a lot. So what we emphasize is it's books produced to a professional standard. So that's the way we define it. So it's very, very important. We have a lot of self-published authors enter. We also have books from Penguin, Wiley, all the major publishers, Hardy Grant. Penguin actually contacted us last year to find out when the awards were opening, because they had so many authors who wanted to enter. So if you are a self-publisher entering this awards, keep in mind you are up against the big boys. So make sure you've produced your book properly. So the things we look out for are obviously quality of cover design. So that's very important. Quality of editing, originality of content. The little details we look for are things like making sure you've got a price on the back of the book, which is very important in this area of publishing. Making sure you've got your business URL on the back of the book. So again, very important in this area of publishing. So all those sorts of little details that make the difference between an amateur book and a very professionally produced book.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I'm sure there's a few more bits to that as well that I will need to dig deeper into. I love this question. How do I leverage my book if I win the Australian Business Book Awards?
Well,
I want those fancy stickers on the front cover.
Yes, well, if you like Tracy Sheen, who won last year, you end up on David Kochler's show. So that's one of the great things you can do with your book. But if you win, so there's various things that happen. We send out stickers to the winners, which have, I'm just looking to see if I don't have any here. I should have grabbed one. So you get a little sticker saying, category winner or whatever it is. So to start off with, you get those stickers that you can put on the front. And then what most authors do when they reprint their book is they actually print that onto the cover. So it's not a sticker, it's actually printed onto the cover. So that's fabulous, a fabulous thing to do. The next thing you do, obviously, if you win, is everybody jumps all over social media with the first thing, hey, I won an award. That's fabulous. it is a very good reason to, I think I mentioned this before, kickstart your publicity again. So, if your book came out 6 or 8 months ago, it might be starting to, trickle off a bit in terms of publicity. So winning an award's a fabulous way to, contact the media again, send the book to your clients, all sorts of cool things you can do once you've won an award. So they're just a few little things that our authors have been doing when they win.
Yeah, I love that. And I have actually seen that firsthand. We've had clients of ours win awards over the last couple of years, and I know that they've been able to reboot the marketing campaign around the book that may have come out a little while ago and things like that. It's been hugely beneficial. We've seen exactly what's happened to them from a sales and ROI perspective with a win or even a placing, which is super cool. All right, well, that was our last question, and I know because we've had to start our LinkedIn Live again, I think our link hasn't gone out to everybody, so we don't have all those live questions coming through as well. But I want to thank you so much today, Michael. It's been fantastic talking to you. And on the bottom of the screen at the moment, I know that we've just put up, we're running a webinar tomorrow, which is the 7 steps to sales success for ambitious authors. So if you're watching this this recording or live right now, then go to our website or copy this link and go to the website and register. This is a free webinar for us tomorrow at 10 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. A 1-hour webinar really digging deeply into what you need to do to achieve incredible sales success once you've written your book. And I know that based on our conversation today and also the authors who are watching this, it's vital information. As you said, Michael, if you don't have a plan and you don't know how to maximize your sales, then you're leaving so much money on the table. You're wasting so much opportunity, and you've gone to enormous lengths to not only write a great book, but also to self-publish it or have it published. And now it's time to activate your plan and yourself to get maximum reward, and that's where we step in. So that is absolutely our forte. We don't, it's not all just about the what. The what is incredibly important. What do I do? But it's how do I do it? And we are the masters of the how. So I'm excited to have as many people as possible on our webinar tomorrow, because this is incredibly important information to know if you're going to be an author soon, or you're an author now and want to maximize all of your rewards. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And as I said, Michael, it's been wonderful to have you here. And sorry for the glitch at the start. You got to love live events. But anyway, this one has gone off without a hitch. So we will be talking again very soon.
Thanks so much for having me, Rachel. It was good fun.
You're welcome. See you later. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.